Hey up YouTube, what's going on, and welcome to Glory Hunter, my main FM21 save, which you'll find on Monday and Wednesday nights over on Twitch. 7:30pm start is typically what I'm aiming at, but for now, Monday and Wednesday nights. It may change in the future, but that's where you'll find this save in its entirety for now. I will be doing update videos, this one included, on a hopefully weekly basis. It may not be a weekly basis depending on how long it takes me to get to the end of the seasons. So the idea is Monday, Wednesday nights, Twitch, Glory Hunter, Tuesday, Thursday, Sheffield United on YouTube, and then Friday will either be an update video for this or another Sheffield United episode. Basically, you won't be without a video on a Friday. So with that in mind, if you don't know what Glory Hunter is, you might get an idea by the stuff around me right now, because I have 20 seasons to get all of these trophies, all 5 domestic leagues, all 5 cups, main cups, so the FA Cup, not the League Cup, for instance, Europa League, the Champions League, and the international tournaments as well, including the World Cup. You don't have to manage a European team for the World Cup, worth noting, but I probably will end up having to. So with that in mind, I had to be as efficient as possible in year one and pick the team I felt most likely to pick up as many trophies in one season. And this is something I picked up from the original Dr. Benji Glory Hunter save, where this idea originated. So if you've not seen that, go watch it, because, I mean, I don't know why I'm saying that. If you're watching this, you probably have watched that. From watching that, I realised something quite early on. You do tend to, if you're doing your job right, after your first season in charge anywhere in this idea, you do tend to end up in the Champions League. So I had to pick a team that starts in the Europa League to give me the best chance of knocking that one out of the park straight away. Because I don't want to have to be trying to force my way into the Europa League, either by being rubbish in the Champions League or just moving to another Europa League about 15 years in or something like that. I don't want to be in that position. I want to be, if I'm going to be chasing a major tournament, I want to be chasing the Champions League, because realistically, you want to be also trying to finish first in the domestic league as well. So you don't want to be in a position where you're trying to get the lesser quote-unquote trophy. So I've started in the Europa League in the hopes I can finish this and win this in year one. So with that in mind, I had to go to a nation where I felt a Europa League team had the best chance at winning a title in the first or second year, which basically meant that Spain was out. It basically meant that France was out, because it's very hard to upset, the top 3 in Spain, the PSG and France. Arsenal, Tottenham and Leicester in the Premier League. Yeah, realistically, maybe in 2-3 years with the right build, I could challenge for that title, but I felt like they weren't necessarily good enough to challenge for a title straight away. I say that, having finished in the Europa League spots in the first season with Sheffield United. At the same time, I also didn't want to start with an English side, just to give this a little bit of difference. So I left me with the Bundesliga and Serie A. Notoriously, in the past, the Bundesliga and Serie A tend to be the ones that fluctuate the most in terms of the teams that are on top. Zebra Juventus don't tend to stay on top. Bayern Munich tend to falter at some points. And every now and then you just sort of get teams dropping out of their respective top 4s quite randomly. So I felt that those two were the best 2 nations to start with. And looking at the Europa League sides, it was narrowed down to 3 pretty much off the bat. Number 1, Bayer Leverkusen in the Bundesliga. You got Leon Bailey. Few talents there. However, of course, he did lose a couple of their main talents, Kai Havertz in particular. And over in Italy, you've got Roma, AC Milan, and Napoli. Now, Roma's team wasn't really feeling Roma's team, if I'm honest. I felt like that was a bigger challenge in terms of overhauling. AC Milan don't enter the group stage; they enter the qualifying stage, and I didn't want to have to deal with that faff. I would expect them to get to the group stage, but I didn't want to have to deal with that faff. And realistically, Napoli had the best side anyway, I felt like. Straight off the bat, Napoli had the best side. And that is actually reflected by the fact they were 3rd in the season preview once I took them over. Welcome to Napoli. Yes, I really, really felt like Napoli were the best chance of getting both the Europa League and the domestic trophy in that first year. I don't really mind if I have to stay in more than 1 year, if I have to challenge for the league or the cup again 1 year on. 5 nations to deal with in 20 years. It's an average of 4 years. And Napoli felt like the best start, because they've got a squad where they've got a few players in their prime. They've got a few players coming in. Not too many players that are just about retired. There's only really Dries Mertens on that front in terms of noteworthy elder statesmen. And he's 33. And you can see in previous years as well, second, third, second, fifth, third, second, fifth, third. So the past decade or so, they're not really done any worse than 5th, and even that was only twice. So finishing 7th last year was a bit of an outlier, and quite frankly, perfect. I believe they won the domestic cup, which is how they ended up in the group stage, just by being 7th. And amusingly, and I'm not gonna lie, I did use my Sheffield United save as a bit of recon because, of course, by the end of the first season, I had an idea how the AI treated these clubs. Napoli was second. Napoli was second in the Sheffield United save in their first year. Leverkusen was seventh in the Bundesliga. So that was basically what decided for me in the end. I wanted to decide I went straight into the group stages, so that ruled out AC Milan. And basically, between the squad as a whole and the fact that Napoli finished second in the Sheffield United one, this felt the right place to go. Clearly, they could challenge for the title with an AI, so with a human in charge, hopefully they could do even better, fingers crossed. And when you look at the squad, and you may have spotted a few transfers already, I'll get to those in a second, but when you've got players like Kalidou Koulibaly to start off with, who is sensational as a central defender, he's 29, his birthday's not till June as well, which is quite good, but he's 29, he's an elite centre-back, and Manolas, who's also 29 alongside him, isn't a shabby prospect either. You've got the 29-year-old Lorenzo Insigne on the left-hand side as well. And former wonder kids like Hirving Lozano, who's now 25, which I find absolutely baffling. The fact he's 25. And players like Alex Moret, who's 23, can grow, regarded as one of the better goalkeeper prospects. I believe he ended up at Arsenal, I think, in last year's game for my York save. So he does tend to end up at the Europa. And they were even better, Arsenal, than they are in real life right now at that point. So he was dealing with Champions League games. And in terms of major prospects, they did bring in Victor Osimhen over the summer, and he's 21. Obviously, I'm not planning to stick around to make him into a world-class player. I suspect he'll get there quite soon anyway. He's already regarded as an elite striker. He's 3.5 stars, and he's got potential ability of maybe 5. And it's also very important, this is the hardest thing about this save, by the way, is adjusting my concept of the stars, because, of course, the star ratings are based on your squad. So a 3-star player here is probably roughly equivalent to a 4-star player at Sheffield United. They're basically a full star ahead, at least, of Sheffield United. So I've got to change my expectations. Like growing players into 3-star players here to sell on, those 3-star players are probably worth 15, 20 million, at least. And what I like about him, likes a round keeper. I've seen that a few times already, and plays a shot. We've played through a little bit at this stage. I'm about in late November. It says in the top right. I could literally read that. I am in late November at this point. So they've got some good players to start off with. They've got a few players in their prime. Their midfield's quite stacked. Got players like Fabian in their midfield, who is world class. Weirdly, like the lowest paid of all their midfielders, but world class, Fabian. Also that rare thing of a left-footed player as well. He's really good. He's got a bit of room to grow. He's 24. They've got quite a few of these players in around the 28-29 block, and they've got quite a few players around this 24-25 block as well, with a little bit to grow. Osimhen, when you start, is basically the only one who's sort of properly young at 21. They don't really have any youngsters coming through as such. Not that I need them, of course, because the rest of the squad is fantastic for the majority. I tried to plug a few holes. I sold basically everyone who was running out of contract at the end of the 2021 because none of them were really worth renewing their contracts for, because they all would have wanted more money they were already on, of course. And I really felt for the majority of them, we were paying them too much for them in the first place. So I moved them all on for money because money's better than letting them go for free. And actually, I'm pretty certain in my Sheffield United save, all the names I recognised for the 2021 contracts, pretty certain all of them left on a free for the AI version. So I immediately tried to sell everyone for as much money as possible. Llorente went for $500,000. Battagna, I don't know if his contract was actually 2021, but Battagna went for 10 million, I think. He's worth quite a lot at Newcastle. Kind of regret that one a little bit now. Hysach went for 6. There were 3 right backs. So with his contract being 2021, I kind of like him as a player, but considering his contract ran up at the end of the year, sold him to Man United for 6 million. Maximovic went to Liverpool for 7 million or so. Considering all those scout summaries have come back as, orange, don't feel so bad about it. And then Milik went for 14 million. He's probably got the best report back anyway. Obviously, all their values are a lot higher now. They've got longer contracts at their new clubs. But 14 million, probably worth more, realistically. But at that point, with 1 year in his contract, he was on about 80,000. The fact he's agreed to 44k there is a bit absurd. And then towards the end, I finally got rid of Gulam as well. We had 3 left-backs as well. So just thinning the full-back options a little bit. I did get a new left-back in anyway. So at that point, I had 3 left-backs, so I could move one of them on. He's non-EU as well, so that helps in terms of registration. Going forward, if we are here for more than a year, 4 million for this guy isn't too bad. I quite like him, actually. He looks quite decent on paper. But 29 years old, was happy to do it. In terms of inbounds, there's sort of young prospects. You can't see his potential now because he's gone out on loan, but he's got potential for a star. Most of these are compensation. I think this was about 750k, 875, you can see it there. Ravello was about 2 million, 1.8. He's still in the squad. He wants to go out on loan. I promised him he could go out on loan, but he's actually played a few games. I wonder if he'll drop that. promise at some point, but 2 stars, maybe 5. Pato I brought in a free. He scored in the first game. He assisted in the first game. I thought I'd done something amazing out of nowhere. The reason for Pato is the fact that he is homegrown Italian, so he counts towards registration purposes. Don't actually need him anymore, and I accidentally used up my last non-EU spot with him, which was problematic for the next transfer. But 2.5 stars, not getting any better than him. I just figured I'd bring him in as a sort of an emergency backup. We sold a few strikers as well. Can play on the left, can play up front. Like I said, scored an assist in the first game and has done essentially nothing since then, 6.73. I bought Lee Kang-in for about 20 million, 17 up front. Can't register him. Bizarrely, he's not kicked up a fuss. I thought at the very least I could play him in the Europa League. Nope. I thought the non-EU thing basically would leave him out of the Serie A stuff, but I thought at the very least, if I can't get him out on loan anywhere again, I'll be able to play in the Europa League. Nope. Weirdly, he's getting better despite not playing football. I look forward to using you next year, Lee. Papetti, another youngster, about 2 million. 4.5 star maybe. Brought in Mancini for 14 million. Of course, we lost Maximovic. We lost another central defender, I feel like. Or we were just slightly thin on the ground to begin with. I kind of brought him in as ideally as a backup, but he wanted to be an important player, and he has been an important player. I'm slightly concerned Manolas is going to kick up a fuss at some point. But Manolas is on regular starter opposed to important player, so maybe if I play him enough, we'll be alright here. There's a lot of games between the Cups and Serie A, so might be alright. Hopefully. But he has been sensational. He's actually been our best player this year. 7.25, 7.32 overall. I think he's had 3 player of the matches. He's been genuinely sensational. 190 centimetres of elite Italian centre-back. Can't ask for more. 40 million as well. We did pay under the odds, surprisingly. Roma let him go for that. I felt like the left-back situation was a little bit thin on the ground in terms of absolute quality. The full-backs on both sides are essentially all 3-star players. It's incredible. They had 5 of them, and they were all 3-star players. So I went out and got one who was more than 3 stars, 3.5. Robin Gosens from Atalanta. One of the ideas is, one of the club visions is take players from other competing clubs, which I've not seen before. So I took them from Atalanta. Defensively solid, forwardly solid, pacey enough, mentals are great, can't ask for more. Positioning is the only thing that's possibly a little bit lacking. Not great at penalties either, but they're getting better too. Yeah, he's really, really good. 7.17 so far. Armando Izzo came in as a centre-back cover. He genuinely a squad player, wanted to be a squad player, so I let him be a squad player. Can cover right back as well if necessary. And bizarrely, and quite importantly for registration purposes, started at Napoli. His first 3 years were at Napoli. Never played a game here before he went out on loan and then was sold to Avellino. But he counts as homegrown club, for which we only had 2 before that. One of which was a goalkeeper, third choice, and the other is Lorenzo Insigne. Not played a great deal, didn't play basically a regular for Torino. Surprising that he just decided to go, yeah, right, I'll be a squad player here. But considering he started here, maybe it's just homecoming more than anything. He's just happy to be here. Armando, I like you. And then because we couldn't register Lee Kang-in, I brought in Riccardo Orsolini from Bologna as well. Again, another Italian player. Figured I might as well try and stack the squad as much as possible so that I can go and sell other homegrown nation players who might not be quite as good. I love Orsolini. He was great for me at Southampton last year on last year's stream save, so I thought I'll get him in again. Non-competitive, he has a 10, I've just noticed. Amazing. Not been quite as prolific, I'll be honest. 6.6 and 3 appearances, but it was sensational, and his stats do back it up again. Pacey, determination's great. Technicals are great too. Inside forward on the right-hand side. Squad player agreed to as well, so that was nice. Which does mean I am playing this formation. I do have the option for a 3 at the back as well, which I had to use the other day because I ran out of forward options on the pitch. Because the injuries started stacking up in that last game. Lozano, Osimhen injured, Orsolini injured. Yeah, I kind of ran out of attacking options, so I had to go 3 at the back for the last half an hour. And I figured I might as well have that loaded for because it's Italian league. You've got to have a 3 at the back loaded. Which does mean basically we line up like this mostly right now. The midfield pairing has changed roles about 5,000 different times already. What I love, fascinatingly, is the fact that the roles here, I found myself sort of drifting to slightly different combinations to the Sheffield one. It's the same formation, but in terms of the tactics and the roles, they're slightly different. And it's interesting how that seems to have brought out the best of both Sheffield United and Napoli. Seemingly, the little differences do add up in this year's game a lot more possibly than last year. Basically, Merritt in goal, Gosens, Koulibaly, Mancini, they should both be ball playing. Malqui, I think Manolas played there recently. Malqui at right back, who is regarded as a worse player than Di Lorenzo, who is the other right back, but I argue he's a better complete wing back. 15 in the back, 15 in the front, 26k as a squad player. Most baffling player in the squad, I'll be honest, in terms of the fact he's happy with that. Recently only got his first cap from Morocco, somehow. Their first choice was a 22-year-old, so I have no idea who was playing for Morocco at right back before either the new guy or Hakimi, who plays further forward these days now. but was a right back initially. So I have no idea who the other right back was like 5 years ago when Malqui was coming through. Bakayoko, Fabian, Lozano, Mertens, Politano, and Osimhen up front. This role is basically the most troubling one because realistically, you want Zielinski in there. He's really good. 3.5 star, maybe 4. On a lot of money, though. And Fabian is the other sensational one. 3.5 star, maybe 4. Ideally, you want both of them in the side at the same time, but it just didn't work. And I'll be honest, neither Fabian or Zielinski are playing particularly well. Why is he regarded as 3 star there now? He's only 3.5 star at deep lying again. Okay, well that's changed for some reason. Someone must have got better for that to have happened. Yeah, neither Zielinski or Fabian are doing particularly well at the moment. So I've been kind of more reliant on the other one, which at this point is Bakayoko. Diego Dem came through recently because he hadn't played games, but he's a sensational ball winner. 3 stars, but what a 3-star player he is. I don't really understand his 3-starness because as a ball winner, that is 4-star for me. I guess it's the pace and the strength, but tenacious is definitely the right word for this. And then another younger player, Elfmas. I keep trying to call him Elfmas because his name is Elyif Elmas, but I keep calling him Elfmas. Very much a 3-star player, but could get better. And Lobotka's there already as well. I just realised the Gagliardini transfer never came through. I did try to get Gagliardini in. I don't know where he went. I didn't need him, really, but I thought I'd get him in as a profit maker eventually. 6 million. Where did Gagliardini go? He just didn't leave. What happened there? Too long ago for me to actually have any news about it. And my belief that Napoli were my best chance of winning a domestic title have been somewhat backed up by the fact we have gone unbeaten in the first 9 games in the league. I figured I'd bring in this much of the update as well. 23 points from 9 games, 7 wins, 2 draws. It's not been too bad. Bizarrely, my conviction that these would be the best chance at Serie A and the Europa League is the other side of things where things aren't going quite as well. We did just beat Juventus 1-0 away from home with a penalty, of all things. We're not exactly the most prolific goal scorers, but we don't concede a lot either. We've only conceded 2 goals in 1 match, and that was the match that Ospina played in. He came to me recently going, why am I not playing more? Because merit keeps clean sheets and you don't. Galatasaray scored 2. He let Hugo Rodallega score a goal, who is 35. Yeah, I bet you've forgotten about him as well. I had. Former Wigan wonder and Fulham. Galatasaray, basically Colombia's retirement home. Falcao, Rodallega, and I think they've got Guarin as well. But yeah, Group G's not going particularly well. We've drawn 3 games, but the only saving grace of the fact is so Feyenoord. Galatasaray have drawn all 4 games. There's 3 teams in this division after 4 matches who haven't lost a game. And then there's Zoya. Essentially, this group will hinge on me beating Galatasaray in the final group game. Me beating Feyenoord would be nice, but as long as I beat Galatasaray in the last one, it doesn't matter what they do against Zoya in their next match, because as long as I beat Galatasaray, then I'll be ahead of them on our head-to-head, and I'll have more points than them, regardless of whether or not we lose to Feyenoord. I think that's how that works. But in terms of star performers, really, so far, there's not been a lot of them. Most of them have been defensive. Koulibaly's been sensational. In fact, if I bring it up on here, you can't see him for whatever reason. But on the right-hand side, they just squeeze in. So far, it's the defenders. Mancini, the backup left-back, actually. Manolas, Koulibaly, Gosens, the first-choice left-back. Merit in goal is up there. You can see, realistically, our problems are defensively. Politano is the only forward player, genuinely the only forward player, apart from the youngster, Ravella, who has actually been very good in the very limited appearances he's had so far. I might start considering just playing him because he's been very good. He was almost the heart of everything that happened in the game that he started in. But Politano on the right really has been the one shining light. And considering he is permanent mandatory fee joining at the end of the year, I'm really glad he's actually been good, because it's one of those things when you join a club, you start a new club and you say, oh, they've got a mandatory signing in next year. Oh, I hope they're not rubbish. I'm really glad he isn't. But realistically, the rest of the squad need to bug their ideas. I mean, every time I go back on this, I need to auto-size it just to fit it back in again. You know, Lobotka basically might as well not play football. Fabian's been quite terrible too. Zielinski's picked things up, playing a little bit further forward, Zielinski, in more attacking roles. That seems to have suited him. That seems to have got a little bit more out of him, I'm pretty certain. Form-wise, the last couple of games have been somewhat better than his initial lot. Apart from Cagliari, 6.65, 6.3, but then recently 2 7.1s and then a 6.8 again at half-time. Being a little bit better playing as that shadow striker or advanced playmaker. So being a little bit more advanced seems to suit Zielinski. Maybe not so much Fabian. I don't know. It's hard to work out what to do with this midfield because there's so many good options, but a lot of them do the same thing, and the 2 best ones sort of do the same thing as well. And there's not really a way to accommodate both of them. And I'm well aware that Gerrard and Lampard, I was about to make an analogy with Gerrard and Lampard, but I'm well aware that they sort of did different things anyway, but just didn't work well together for whatever reason for England. It feels a little bit like that. Zielinski and Fabian should be starting every game together. And I just can't work out a way to make that happen and for them both to perform. Oh, and that Ospina situation, by the way, I said Merit's in the form of his life. Ospina said, oh, but I can do that too. I countered with, you're right happy being a cup goalkeeper? You went, yeah, all right. In what was one of the most bizarre conversations I've ever had with a player. So he's agreed to be a cup goalkeeper. He went from first choice to cup goalkeeper and was absolutely fine with it. But he is worse than Merit, that's absolutely for certain. So anyway, that's part 1 of Napoli. If you want to see more of this unfold, you will have probably already missed 2. You would have probably already missed 2 streams because this will go up on the Friday. I have no idea what's about to happen. And that's my favourite part of this. We're unbeaten. Everything's feeling good so far. Until next time, ta-ra.